Hi, my name is Patrick Jackson, and this is my EDL 851 Module 13 case study. We are looking at a situation where I am the building principal, finishing up my evaluations on probationary teachers. I'm running out of time to get those turned in and processed. I have a promising group of teachers in the probationary stage. Unfortunately, one of those teachers is showing a lack of instructional strategies that keep students engaged and is also having an effect on her behavior management. Mrs. Stevens is a science teacher who's in question, and after doing observations in a post-evaluation conference, I've decided to not renew her contract. This is also coming up in a year where she is up for tenure based on my recommendation. This is occurring at the school that I'm the principal of, most likely a secondary school if Mrs. Stevens is a science teacher. These observations are occurring in her classroom, with some elements being found in the hallway outside of her classroom before stepping in to observe, something that she's probably not aware of after that post observation conference that we had. And that did take place in my office, which became hostile in both cases, not only after the post-observation conference, but also at the post-evaluation conference, in which I gave her the information that I would not renew her contract. This situation involves myself as a principal, Mrs. Stevens as our science teacher, the students who are involved in our class who seem to have a lack of engagement and even a lack of respect for Ms. Stevens, and then other teachers who were mentioned as being promising, most likely obviously through the same evaluation tool that I'm using on Ms. Stevens. The legal aspects that we see, there's really no basis for legal action, but Ms. Stevens has threatened to take legal action, feeling that the evaluations are unfair or false. Contractual aspects, there has been no breach of contract. If this was based off the teacher agreement in my district, there is no basis for discrimination or harassment in this case. And the biggest thing that is probably in question would be ethical aspect. For myself as a principal, did I do everything I could as a principal to support Mrs. Stevens before making this decision of non-renewal? Did I exhaust my resources? Was my observation and evaluation fair? Was it the same as the other teachers that are also in their probationary period? And given the shortness of Mrs. Stevens during the post-observation conference, where she had a hard time accepting suggestions and also applying those suggestions in her next observation, as well as being disgruntled with her post-evaluation conference, did I make these decisions based off my opinion or my emotions, or did I do them objectively? Exactly what did happen in the situation, Mrs. Stevens is upset after being informed that I have decided not to recommend her for rehire based on a year of average or below average teacher evaluations in the years she is to receive tenure. The people in this situation are myself, the principal. Things I need to consider for myself is what kind of environment do I want to set up for my building, and what kind of training do I have for evaluating teachers, as well as what kind of tool have I been using to do so. Mrs. Stevenson, the science teacher who's in question, who does not feel like she's been supported, that she's had a strong mentor or given good suggestions on changing her practices, as well as in question of leadership and her buy-in to leadership, not knowing her content area or the ability to teach her class the way she does. Also not being very bought into her student population and their ability to be engaged in her class. And the other people we see in this situation would be the students who are in the observation who show a lack of engagement and a lack of interest or even a lack of respect for Mrs. Stevens. I'd say it's pretty apparent there must be a amount of respect towards admin from those students based on their reaction to the observations when I entered the classroom. The other teachers are also mentioned in this case, showing promise and doing fine on their evaluations, who must also be in their probationary periods. This occurring at a school that we don't have a whole lot of information on. The observations are taking place in Miss Stevens' classrooms. And again, like I said earlier, some of those elements are being seen in the hallway outside of the classroom that she's unaware of, as well as the conferencing after the observation and evaluation results taking place in my office, which became a little hostile in both situations. We don't know a whole lot about the school, assuming it's a secondary school since it does have a science teacher. We don't know if it's urban or rural, what kind of demographic the students show, or even what kind of population numbers-wise it has. What we do know is that Miss Stevens is a science teacher, and we also know that we have a group of incoming teachers, so I'm guessing that our school must be decently large if we have a number of new teachers or teachers that are in their probationary period. Reviewing and prioritizing this information, I like to look at a couple questions. In doing so, how does the situation affect my school? Are instructional expectations being met? Are we seeing that happen from some teachers but not others? Could this be damaging to the school, the faculty, the students, and the district if legal action is taken? Yes. Those are our stakeholders. If we look at how it affects them, our students obviously having a lack of engagement, the level of effectiveness of that teaching is not very high. The level of success our students are achieving is hard to measure in this case, but I would have to imagine is lower. Our faculty has a two-way effect, where in one case they could view our evaluations as a gotcha system if they see a teacher losing their position after receiving mostly average scores and a few below average scores. Also, how are they affected by the precedents that I set as a leader when I don't settle for inadequate teaching strategies? The families that we have in our building, how do they view our school and me as a principal if teachers who are not effective are being allowed to stay and influence their students? And how does this affect our district? Legally, if legal action is taken, obviously our district is going to be affected. It's going to affect their view on me as a leader. It's going to affect possibly their view on our evaluation tools and our trainings that we receive on being evaluators of teachers. What steps have I actually taken that affect the situation? Obviously, I'm doing my evaluations, but am I providing proper support in doing so, utilizing all the resources that are available to me, diversifying my evaluation approach? Am I only basing this off observations during walkthroughs? Do I have a variance of walkthroughs, informal and formal evaluations? Am I asking for any kind of evidence or artifacts to give me other things to look at in a teacher's effectiveness? What other kind of data am I collecting? Am I doing surveys of students, parents, other teachers? And then am I also providing actionable feedback to Mrs. Stevens and other teachers that they can actually make effective adjustments to their instructions? Again, am I making the right decision based on the information I've gathered? Is my decision objective or subjective? Am I basing it off of our evaluation tool and how I've been trained, or am I basing it off of emotions? Do the other teachers take my suggestions and I give them better evaluations, or does Miss Stevens, if she's short with me and doesn't take my suggestions and therefore I don't evaluate her very well? Am I being fair between all teachers and objective when I'm looking at these evaluations? Section 6, options and possible consequences. Two different directions I went with this was sticking to my guns as option 1. I would need to be willing to present evidence to back up my claims on the evaluations, seeking district support to back me up when not renewing a teacher if there is legal action taken, and analyzing district policies to make sure that I am doing what I need to and following through with my decision. Option 2 would be reevaluation of Mrs. Stevens. What areas did I fail Mrs. Stevens? Doing some self-reflection, figuring out what I can do to be better. Utilizing an evaluation system designed to promote school improvement and student success. What support can I make available to salvage the situation? And possibly opening that question up to Miss Stevens if she knows what support she needs to be more effective. Can we work together and me possibly gain some buy-in from her? Am I finding coaches, mentors, resources as far as curriculum, behavior management, and engagement strategies? Evaluating these options. Option one, when I'm owning this decision and sticking to my guns, some pros would be I could hire a more effective teacher possibly and improve the learning and science that's happening in my school. Cons to that would be taking on that conflict of the possible legal battle and possibly unsure of the incoming teacher taking her place. Option two, reevaluation. Some of those pros would be promote administrative support and improve classroom engagement for Mrs. Stevens, possibly if she does make changes and adjustments. Some cons to that would be possibly support does not help the situation, and it's setting a precedent that I accept poor teaching strategies in my building, which could affect the teacher culture that we have. Option three is a mediation option. Do we compromise and promote success somewhere else with Miss Stevens? Kind of a powerful tool that I've been informed of in the past is utilizing the ability of seeming concern for somebody's strengths and that their strengths have other places they could be more effective. Figuring out how to agree on the situation. If it works, both sides end up better off. Miss Stevens would end up in a school where her strengths do make her more successful. And we could possibly hire a new teacher that's more successful in our building. Some cons to that would be it's a tough conversation that you must be prepared for. And if it went the wrong way, we are running out of time, or I'm running out of time to make this decision and complete my evaluations. Section 8, choosing the best option. I believe that reevaluation option 2 is the best. It's an opportunity for self-reflection on my part to improve myself as a leader, seeing where I made mistakes and what I can do better to improve the situation if it occurs again. Figuring out what supports are needed to help Mrs. Stevens and utilizing not only what I know, but also district resources such as mentors, coaches, HR, PDs, professional developments, looking for outside trainings on engagement strategies and behavior management. This could give Ms. Stevens a sense of accomplishment and partnership with me and our school, promote some more buy-in, not just with her, but other teachers who see this process happening. Get district support to help in the process to encourage a multi-perspective decision in the future. That way it's not just my eyes on it, but also other people from outside in the district are seeing what's going on. Utilizing a strong evaluation tool that's more complex of a method of evaluation than what we're already using to gather better data and evidence of effectiveness. And also having the ability to observe teachers in a variety of classrooms, making sure that I'm well versed in what classrooms should look like or could look like, utilizing different strategies for different content area. Section 9, my implementation, choosing this path. Involve other stakeholders, teachers, and district support to help me out. Communicate and promote transparency with Mrs. Stevens and other teachers. Improve the frequency and diversity of evaluation. Like I said earlier, walkthroughs, formal and informal evaluations, and collecting other pieces of evidence. More immediate feedback being given, and feedback that is actionable. And celebrate improvement and promote success where it is seen. What might happen is Ms. Stevens could find success. The district involvement means I have support in future decisions. Other teachers will gain a sense of buy-in through this, possibly seeing this process. Hopefully students' learning engagement improves as well. If Ms. Stevens in Ms. Stevens' class, my own practice will improve, learning from my mistakes and making sure it's something I don't do again, and improvement across the building. And our culture growing from this process, bringing in other tools to help support teachers and letting teachers know that I am there to support them and that I'm not utilizing this as a gotcha system. So that is my EDL case study for Module 13. Thank you very much and talk to you later.